This video is brought to you by IVoltz, who are dedicated to powering a brighter future and bringing you the latest in cutting edge technology and innovative and sustainable energy solutions. Our solar and battery system installed by IVoltz has helped us significantly reduce our electricity consumption by over 2,000 kilowatt hours. More on IVoltz later in the video. If you've been following my solar and battery journey for a while, you'll know after some consideration we had a second solar panel array and a GivEnergy battery installed late in 2022, in addition to our existing 2015 fit benefiting array. In this video I'll be looking back at my solar and battery experience over the last year. Specifically, I'm going to cover why I chose to install solar panels and a battery in the first place, what did I install, why, and how much did it cost, how my system has performed over the last 12 months, and what I've learnt in year 1, good and bad, how the GivEnergy equipment specifically has performed, and finally, would I buy again in 2024? And if so, what would I do differently? We've got a lot to get through, so let's get into it. As I mentioned previously, we first installed a small solar array of just 2.85 kilowatt potential in 2015, and that solar journey was very different to the one we had in 2022. We'd just moved into our house that summer 2015 and we were actually cold called a few months later by a solar company who claimed the feed-in tariff was reducing in the new year and we should jump onto this golden opportunity before it ended. We'd always wanted to go down the solar route to be more green, save money on our energy bills, and didn't want to miss out. But we were a bit sceptical being cold called. We did a bit of our own research and got a few more quotes and finally had installed 10 285 watt panels on our garage at a cost of just over £4,000 with an estimated payback period of 8 to 9 years. Why not on the main roof, I hear you cry? Well, the few houses on our estate with solar all had theirs installed on their detached garages. And so I suppose we felt we had to do the same. In fact, we were actually concerned it might reduce the value of our house if we stuck ugly solar panels on the main roof. Ridiculous, right? In hindsight, and my biggest regret was not installing them on the main roof and the garage. However, it was still a good move, and that system is set to have paid for itself early next year. In January 2020, we approached the same company who installed our solar panels, inquiring about battery storage to capture the solar which we couldn't use quick enough, rather than it going back to the grid. However, the quote they came back with was really high, at around £6,000 for a 4.8 kilowatt hour battery. They also proposed grid trading through social energy. However, the high quote, our concerns about the finer details of the grid trading scheme, the emerging pandemic, the uncertainty that came with it, and falling energy prices meant we quickly shelved the idea of adding battery storage. It so happens that this worked out for the best, as social energy stopped trading in late 2021, and it looks like individuals who hadn't pulled the plug have had several issues since. Fast forward to 2022, and we're in an energy crisis, and with prices going through the roof, we look to protect ourselves from these rises and reduce our bills. I also wanted to future-proof. In 2017 we bought a used plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, or PHEV, and in the next few years I'd like to go fully electric and consider a heat pump, which will definitely push up our electricity bills. Finally, I like the technology involved. It's cool and I wanted to explore this further. Initially I looked again at installing just a battery to capture the solar which we weren't able to use quick enough. However, running the numbers in my solar and battery spreadsheet for installing more solar on our main roof and a battery with the 0% VAT was too appealing to ignore. We also wanted to reduce our carbon footprint further, and there's no better way of doing that than generating your own electricity and using it at source. So that's 4 great reasons right there. And even though unlikely, if off-peak tariffs did disappear, I'd have even more solar to charge my battery from. Exploring solar and battery quotes in 2022 was completely different to our 2015 story. Armed with more actual solar generation data, knowledge and ideal system specs, I got a few quotes. This in itself was a really useful process, which ultimately helped shape the final system I had installed. I got at least 3 to 4 quotes, but it soon became apparent that some of the companies I contacted were only interested in selling me the kit they had rather than working with me to install the system I wanted. One company even suggested that I couldn't retrofit a battery to capture any of my fit benefiting array's solar generation. Starting with solar, we have a south-southwest facing roof and wanted to max out what we could fit onto the roof space. It makes sense to do this as the panels themselves are relatively cheap, but it's the labour and scaffolding which make up the bulk of the cost. One of my regrets when we installed our solar panels in 2015 was not filling both our south-southwest facing roof spaces. Unlike battery storage and off-peak tariffs, the sun is guaranteed to be shining. And if it doesn't, well, let's face it, we've got bigger things to worry about. This new solar array is made up of 14 390 watt Trina Vertex S all black monocrystalline panels. Easy for me to say. Solar panels have no moving parts, are very reliable, and these ones come with a 15-year defect and 25-year performance warranty. We have minimal shading apart from the central roof elevation, which causes some shading at the beginning and end of the day. I didn't feel microinverters to negate the shading were worth it for us, relative to their additional cost. Onto the inverters. The new 3.6 kilowatt Solis will convert the direct current DC electricity captured by our new solar array into alternating current AC to supply the house first. Another 3 kilowatt AC coupled GivEnergy inverter will suck up any excess AC electricity not used by the house and convert it back to DC electricity to be stored in the battery. As part of the agreement for our feed-in tariff, the existing solar array's 3 kilowatt Solax inverter will need to remain unchanged. All the work was pre-applied to the DNO under G99, post-notified under the same, and all taken care of by IVoltz. During the day when both our solar arrays are generating at their full potential, the house could consume 6.53 kilowatt of electricity. That's 2.85 kilowatts from the existing solar and 3.68 kilowatts from the new solar. Add in the battery's 3 kilowatts and the house could consume up to a total of 9.53 kilowatts. I was somewhat concerned that in the depths of winter, when solar has gone AWOL and we're relying on just the battery supplying the house, that if we had a high consuming appliance on, for example the oven, and then fancied a cup of tea, turning on the kettle would take us over what the 3 kilowatt battery inverter would be able to supply without drawing from the grid. However, like the other habit changes that come from having solar and being conscious of our energy use, we've been able to stagger using our high consuming appliances. If you're currently looking for a higher kilowatt AC coupled GivEnergy inverter, the good news is that there's now one available, and I'll come back to the specifics of that later in the video. Next, the battery. This is the big one, and probably the item I spent the most time thinking about in terms of how big should I go and where should it go. Looking at our energy consumption data in a 24-hour period, it was clear that on average we use around 8 kilowatt hours of electricity during the day at peak rates, and the same again off peak. When choosing our battery size, I wanted to get a battery with enough usable capacity to cover 1.2 times our peak time use, to give us a bit of a buffer, but also a battery system which could later be expanded should our energy needs change. I'd initially looked at the 8.2 kWh GivEnergy battery, but then found out they were releasing a 9.5 kWh battery in the mid to late summer of 2022, and so I wanted to hold out for that, as it would fit near perfectly with the aim of covering 1.2 times my peak usage, which would be 9.6 kWh. However, whilst waiting for the 9.5 kWh battery to become available, I started looking at our peak energy use in a bit more detail, to find out which appliances contributed to that figure. We have an ensuite bathroom, which also has a 9 kW electric shower. Both my wife and I use this for approximately 10 minutes each,
Bring me sunshine,
consuming around 3 kWh per day. We're on the Octopus tracker tariff for gas and are averaging just over 4p per kWh, and so we've been using another shower which is fed off our hot water tank instead. In doing so, we've reduced our electricity use by 3 kWh, which has taken down our peak electricity consumption to around 5 to 6 kWh, and I made the decision to reduce the battery size down to 8.2 kWh again. This has been more than enough for our peak electricity needs, and like the 9.5 kWh battery, has 100% depth of discharge. And don't forget there is a decent solar array to help keep it topped up, even in the winter.
well, most of the time anyway.
This 8.2 kWh battery comes with a 10-year defect and performance warranty, and was better value for money per kilowatt-hour compared to the 9.5 kWh battery at the time. The other thing with the battery which caused much debate was its location. We had a few options of where to put it: in our detached garage, on the outside of the house, or in the loft. Ideally it would have gone in the garage with the rest of the existing solar equipment, but this would have involved digging a trench from the main house to the garage to upgrade the cabling, adding a good few £100 on. The other issue for us is that we often put our car and other items for storage in the garage over winter, and I didn't want to reduce that capacity. Although IP65 rated and can be installed externally, I wasn't keen on installing such an expensive bit of kit on the outside of my house, and exposed to the elements and prying eyes. Furthermore, some owners with externally battery systems have complained of slow charging or no charging at all in near zero temperatures over the winter. So that left installing it in the loft. I did initially have some reservations about this too, mainly concerns about overheating in the summer. However, after chatting it through with IVoltz and seeing several other people who have had their batteries in the loft for years without issue, I was soon reassured. The operation temperatures on GivEnergy's technical sheet also suggests an operational temperature of between 0 and 45 degrees. Furthermore, we have a large, well-ventilated loft space, and the solar panels on the roof should provide some further shelter from the sun. I also asked IVoltz to add a mains circuit fire alarm in the loft space for some added peace of mind. Over the last year, we've had some record temperatures in 2023, and on no occasions did the battery overheat, chuck up any error messages, or catch fire. You'll be glad to know. The hottest day of the year was on the 9th of September 2023, and the battery temperature reached 31 degrees, which is well within its 0 to 45 degrees Celsius operating temperature. The inverter was running hotter, reaching 59.7 degrees Celsius, which is within its normal operating temperature range of -25 to 60 degrees Celsius. Conversely, the coldest day of the year was the 9th of March 2023, when the outside temperature dipped to -8, and we had snow. The battery temperature dropped to 4 degrees and the inverter to 15.7 degrees Celsius, again staying within its normal operating temperature ranges with no dip in performance. One of the extra things we wanted was to have a surge protector to cover the new solar array and battery, the existing solar array and the entire house. As I mentioned in my initial video, for those of you who think it's overkill, I'll say from experience that it isn't. A couple of years after we had our original 2015 solar panel array installed, following some thunderstorms, we had a power surge, which wrecked our house alarm, router, but also sadly our solar panel inverter. Luckily the inverter was under warranty, and the original installing company replaced it without any fuss. And I'm glad to report the surge protector hasn't been called into action so far. At the time I installed during the energy crisis, there were concerns about the need for energy rationing and possible winter power cuts for up to several hours. Thankfully, these did not materialise, but given these concerns we had installed an EPS or emergency power supply, which would allow any circuit in the house to be powered back up. These are usually limited to low consuming circuits, and we are limited to 2.4 kilowatt backup power. We will still have to flick a manual changeover switch and consciously turn off any high loads such as ovens, hobs, electric showers and heating. Again, we have not needed to use the EPS so far. In total, our install cost £10,525 in November 2022. And this is a great time to tell you a bit more about IVoltz, who are the sponsors of today's video. Not being at home during the day meant we lost a lot of electricity back to the grid. Likewise, in the summer, we couldn't consume it quickly enough. IVoltz worked with us to help shape our solar and battery system and meet our objectives, to reduce our carbon footprint, save money, and plan for our future energy needs whilst keeping within our budget. Their experience and knowledge in solar and battery storage was second to none, in particular explaining how we could charge the battery from both our old and new array without losing our fit, something a few companies I contacted said couldn't be done. This expertise and high quality service carried through into our install. An example of this being them grinding down the back of the tile for it to fit flush over the roof anchor, minimising the risk of water ingress. IVoltz are based in Doncaster but cover both domestic and commercial installations all across the UK and provide solutions for solar panels and battery storage, EV charging and heat pumps. They're also fully accredited. If you want to check out their latest offers for yourself, head to their website ivoltz.com. They've also offered a £200 referral bonus split between you and the channel if you go on to have an installation, and you can check out the referral code's quote in the video description box below. Thanks again to IVoltz for sponsoring this video and to all of you for supporting the channel. So that's what we had installed and why, but did it perform as we expected it to, and what have we learned about our system so far? Based on my 2015 solar arrays generation data, I had a rough idea that the solar panels would generate around 828 kilowatt hours per kilowatt potential installed. So for my total of 8.31 kilowatt potential, I was predicting the system would generate 6,881 kilowatt hours of electricity over 12 months. Looking at my system's data, you can see that we actually generated 7,040 kilowatt hours of electricity, slightly more than I predicted and more than enough to satisfy our current energy needs. This graph shows my month-by-month actual solar generation versus predicted generation in 2023. You can see the actual generation beat my predicted generation in all months apart from February and March, owing to snowing patches and a very wet July. Overall, you can see a rough annual solar bell curve, where my highest generation month was June at 1061 kWh, an average of 35.4 kWh per day, owing to longer days and the sun being higher in the sky. On the flip side, the worst performing month for solar generation was December at 149 kWh, an average of just 4.8 kWh per day. Of the 7,040 kWh generated, we self-consumed 2,191 kWh into the house and a further 745 kWh into the battery, a total of 2,936 kWh, of 42% self-consumption. Prior to installing our new solar and battery setup, we typically imported around 16 kWh of electricity per day, approximately 8 kWh during the peak, and the same again in the off-peak hours, which is 5,840 kWh per year. Since installation, our total grid import was 3,831 kWh. That's a massive reduction of 2,000 kWh per year, with over 95% of this being imported during the off-peak cheap electricity period. To help achieve not exceeding the inverter output and pulling from the grid, I've mounted a tablet to the wall in the kitchen to display the GivEnergy app, which updates every 10 seconds in home mode. I've added the excellent Fully Kiosk browser to add motion and audio detection capability, and if you've got an Amazon Fire tablet kicking about, you can check out this video where I show you how you can install Google Play Store and therefore the GivEnergy app on it, or any Android app for that matter. I've chosen the kitchen to locate this in, as it tends to be the area in the house where high consumption items are likely to be switched on, and provides some guidance to all the family on making better electricity consumption decisions. We exported an impressive 4,104 kWh of solar generation back to the grid. Furthermore, we exported 250 kWh by force discharging our battery to the grid when I was experimenting in June and during our energy supplier Octopus Energy's saving sessions, where at times we were being paid a massive £4 per kilowatt hour of exported electricity. But what does that all mean in terms of money back in my pocket? To get the most out of our solar and battery installation, I've chosen to match our tariff choice to the time of year to gain the most financial reward. A bit like sticking winter tyres on your car for those colder months to improve performance. For the spring and summer, I chose to switch to Octopus Flux for its attractive export rates. You can see in early 2023, these Flux export rates were brilliant, with a day rate of 21.9p per kilowatt hour and 35.3p per kilowatt hour between the 4 to 7 pm period. For the autumn and winter period when the sun goes into hiding, I chose the Octopus Go tariff to guarantee cheap charging for my PHEV and home battery. Whilst you can see the peak rate is pretty high, in reality over 95% of our import was at the off-peak rate, owing to our battery largely covering our energy use during the peak time. The difficulty comes when you consider other factors like what time of year to switch tariffs and what to do if you have an electric vehicle to charge or a heat pump to run. I've put this video and spreadsheet together to help you work out your savings depending on different tariffs based on your household consumption, self-consumption and system specifications. Octopus Energy have several smart tariffs for you to choose from to get the most from your systems. And if you're thinking of joining Octopus Energy, don't forget our offer of an extra £20 from us on top of the £50 credit you get from Octopus Energy. If you do choose to use our referral link, then thank you, it really does help keep the channel going. So in 2023, we saved £919.60 on our electricity bill with an extra £845 made in export payments. That's a total of £1,764.60. Just to note, the export payments are from April to December inclusive, as we only started getting paid for our export from our new solar array after giving up our FIT deemed export payments at the end of March. And if you think I'm crazy to even contemplate giving up my FIT deemed export payments, you can check out this video where I break down the numbers, rationale for me doing so, and some of the risks to consider. Since 2023, import and export rates of electricity have fallen in line with wholesale energy prices. Factoring in the money I've already made back in year 1, my current payback period and return on investment are 7 years and 14.38% respectively. I'll leave a link to this spreadsheet in the video description box below if you want to work out your numbers too. One of the biggest debates I had alongside how much battery storage to get was which home battery manufacturer to go with. The Tesla Powerwall 2 was the flagship battery at the time when I first started looking, with its sexy looks, 13.5 kWh capacity and backup gateway. However, when I got a few quotes, I was met with prices around £9,500 installed for just the battery. We can work that price out per kilowatt hour. £9,500 divided by 13.5 kilowatt hours equals £704 per kilowatt hour. The other manufacturer I'd been hearing increasingly good things about was GivEnergy. The thing I liked about GivEnergy was the variety of battery sizes and options available, the fact that it was a British owned and UK based company, and competitively priced, with quotes for an 8.2 kWh battery for £4,350. That's £530 per kilowatt hour. GivEnergy are also starting to integrate their kit more with some of the big players, and at the time of making this video are the only batteries compatible with the intelligent Octopus flux tariff. There are also a few Facebook groups dedicated to help and support GivEnergy battery and associated kit users, which has GivEnergy employees in amongst its members who are more than happy to help. My only small gripe is the GivEnergy's app's connectivity in home mode. On occasion the app struggles to connect the inverter locally and instead connects via the cloud in away mode. This updates around every 4 minutes, rather than the 10-second refresh that you get in home mode. Whilst this isn't a massive issue, it can temporarily affect our ability to decide what to turn on and when. The only other issue is the delay from the inverter when the household consumption increases. For example, if we turn on the kettle, there is a small delay from when the battery kicks in to meet this demand. This means that the grid must step in temporarily to meet this demand. In reality, the amount of peak rate electricity this uses is minimal, as you can see from my usage data, and by the fact that the majority of my imported electricity is during the off-peak hours. But it is something I would like to see improved upon. Over the past year, I've been very impressed with all our GivEnergy kit. We've had no major problems, and I certainly would recommend them to others. So, now you know how it's gone over the last year. Would I do it again in 2024? And if so, would I do anything differently? Would I do it again? Absolutely yes. I love the technology and being able to reduce my carbon footprint and electricity bill. Would I do anything differently though? Starting with solar, I'd definitely fill my roof again without any hesitation, and would do so if I had a south or east or west facing roof. However, I'm a bit more sceptical of a north-facing roof, where they would generate only around 50% of the amount of energy compared to south-facing panels. Moving on to the inverter and battery, I definitely install GivEnergy kit again. Since my installation in late 2022, GivEnergy have released an all-in-one 13.5 kWh battery and backup gateway, which can provide 13.5 kWh of usable capacity, 7.2 kilowatt of peak power into the home on top of any solar generation, and when used with the backup gateway, in the event of a grid failure, the system will continue to provide power to your home. Lastly, even though I've not had to use them, I'd definitely install a surge protector and backup feature, either as an EPS as I had done before, or as part of the existing feature with the GivEnergy all-in-one and gateway. So that's my experience so far with solar and battery. Let me know in the comments section below what stage you're at in your solar and battery journey. And if you enjoyed this video and you're wondering just how much a solar and battery system may save you, then definitely check out this video and I'll see you there. Thanks for watching, see you next time.